Hello, everybody. My name is Dylan Moore, and I'm currently a senior at the Morgan School. And before I get into anything, I just want to thank you all so much in advance for taking some time out of your day to watch this video. I really appreciate it. So, I want to share a story with you on something happening at the Morgan School that is affecting my family greatly, but also has implications for many other students. We have uncovered that the class of 2024 valedictorian and salutatorian titles were selected using inconsistent and illogical methods. I'm making a video to try and reach as many people as possible in the short amount of time left before graduation on June 10th, but I need your help. My family has tried to handle this on our own privately with the school for almost 4 months, starting January 30th. We've spoken with school administration, superintendents, guidance counselors. We've also spoken in front of the Board of Ed 4 times and asked for private meetings, since this deals with a lot of personal student details and been told it wasn't allowed. And we've emailed them full details and proof of everything we are discussing in this video. We've spoken with the Connecticut Department of Education along with lawyers, but we were told it would take too long past graduation, and we would need a whole team to go up against the Board of Ed's law firm. So, we're asking for the town's help in speaking up to make this right. A crowd of people asking for something is a lot more powerful than one person. Please know that the other students involved are not to be blamed. They were unaware of all these issues and did nothing wrong. We apologize to them that this has become such a messy, uncomfortable, and awkward situation where no matter what, somebody is going to be left feeling very angry about how things were handled. We also do not believe anything malicious or purposeful was done by Clinton Public Schools leading up to this. However, a lack of policies, inconsistent practices, and illogical ways of doing things have created a mess. And now that it all has been brought to the attention of CPS, nobody is willing to do anything. However, my future, the other students' futures, and a lot of money are on the line. Graduation is the culmination of 12 years of academics. The title of valedictorian and salutatorian need to be awarded to the correct students using fair and equitable methods. We are not willing to sit back and keep quiet while administration continues to stall us, offer us vague answers to our questions, and tell us that there are no avenues or policies that allow them to fix it. Most upsetting is when they thank me for pointing out all of this and tell me that they will update their policies going forward, but can't or won't fix it now. By a lot of money on the line, I mean that the University of Connecticut offers all students ranked 1 and 2 from Connecticut public high schools a free ride on tuition on all 4 years of undergraduate studies. In today's numbers, that's over $70,000, and I will be attending UConn this fall. So, here's what happened. On September 12th of this school year, the top 3 ranked seniors were called down individually to guidance. We were told our rank, told our GPA, and told we had this one last semester before the final calculation would be taken, at the end of the first semester of senior year. At that time, whoever is number 1 and number 2 will be valedictorian and salutatorian. That was it for details on how they calculate. I was told that it was basically a 3-way tie at this point. They had to go out to decimal places to determine the ranks. Also, remember, being that they told us on September 12th, it is too late to add or drop any classes. So we just had to do our best with the classes we were already in. On this day, I learned that I was ranked number 2 with a 4.5903 GPA. I worked hard, had great grades that semester, and felt very confident as the semester ended. On January 30th, the other 2 students and I were called down again individually to guidance. I was told that I had dropped to number 3. Adding in the grades from this last semester, my GPA was now 4.5703. I knew it was entirely possible any of us could have ended up being number 1 or 2, as the other students are both very capable and driven. I was upset, but more than anything, I was a little confused because it just didn't add up. I was in all heavily weighted, rigorous academic classes, AP classes, UConn ECE classes, which are taught in the high school, and honors classes. I received all A's or A pluses for grades. In fact, my lowest grade was a 95. How did another student pass me? I didn't really know. And how did my GPA drop? This is when we started asking questions. The more we learned, the more questions we had. So, there are 3 items that we have uncovered. The first being that they used illogical calculation methods to determine valedictorian and salutatorian. Grades from core academic classes were not used in final GPA calculations. Only elective class grades were used. In fact, there is no written policy on exactly how valedictorian and salutatorian are calculated. In the Morgan Handbook and all the many Board of Ed policies, this is the only place it is mentioned. It is from the handbook, page 18. They use another GPA calculation policy that doesn't fit this situation. They use Board of Ed policy 6312. All final course grades will carry the GPA credit as shown in the table. So, what is a final grade? It's a completed class, one that has started and fully finished. This makes sense when you are running GPA for the entire student body at the end of the school year. If a student is incomplete in a class, the grade shouldn't be used in calculating their formal GPA. But at the end of the school year, 99% of students' classes are now final. But it is illogical to use this policy when you are running GPA mid-year for only 3 students, when the sole purpose is to find out who is ranked number 1 and 2, and none of their academic classes have final grades. Why do they do it this way? We asked, and we were told that that's how it's always done. That's how the GPA computer software works. We were calculating for 3 students, and they could have done it by hand. There are formal grades on the report cards for semester 1 for all of these academic classes. They can easily be used. But nope, they only use the grades from classes that started in September and ended in one semester, or in January. Electives. I had 3 of them, and I received an A+ in each one. So, if these 3 electives were the only things that were calculated for me, and I had the highest grade possible, how did another person pass me, and how did my GPA drop from 4.5903 to 4.5703? Let me explain how. If my starting GPA was 4.5903, and they added in 3 elective grades valued at 4.33, which is lower than my GPA drops a little bit with each elective they calculate, or 3 times, bringing me down to that 4.5703. I'm sure you're thinking that if they're only counting electives for all 3 students, it might be illogical, but it is fair. But that is not what happened, which brings us to the second unfair practice we uncovered. Study hall special exceptions were made. Administration had signed off on allowing the other 2 students during this tiebreaker semester to sign up for more study halls than a student is typically allowed to take. We know for a fact one student was given special approval to take 3 study halls in one semester. So why does this matter? Let me explain. By the time you become a senior, you've locked in most or all of your mandatory academic requirements, and you finally have an opportunity to take some electives. If you don't take an elective, you have a study hall period. Students are typically allowed to take 1 study hall per semester. Taking 3 study halls in one semester is very outside the norm. In this 3-way tie-breaking final semester, allowing one to have this special exception has a negative effect on the other 2 students' GPA. Let me explain. For me, on my schedule, I had 4 year-long academic classes, as we discussed, had not counted at all. I had 1 study hall, which has no grade, and therefore the GPA software skips over as well. In fact, it isn't even on the report card. As mentioned, the only things counted were my 3 elective classes with the 3 A+, but as we have shown, this brings my GPA down times 3. If another student has 4 academic year-long classes that are overlooked, and then 3 study halls which are skipped, they may only have room in their schedule for 1 elective. As in my case, no matter what grade they receive in it, it would bring their GPA down, but only times 1 class. This is unfair. You cannot put 3 students in a tie-breaking situation with such heavy stakes and give special exceptions that affect the other students' GPAs. They are not comparing apples to apples. We do not know exactly how many study halls the third person had. We are under the impression that they were approved for multiple, and I'll explain that in a minute. So, how am I sure most people are only allowed to take one study hall per semester and that if there's no written policy? I know firsthand. This is current In this current semester, the second semester of senior year, I was signed up again for 3 electives and 1 study hall. I was called down at the beginning of the semester and told that one of my electives had been canceled because the teacher needed to get surgery and they would be out for a month. I was shown what other electives were available for that time slot, but I had actually already taken them all. I had my 4 academic courses, a part-time job, was in the school musical after school each day, and I didn't need the credit, so I suggested that I could just take a second study hall. I was told that they only like students to take one. I stood my ground, and as it made no sense. I was told my parents would need to give their approval, and administration would need to sign off on it for 2 study halls. I was ultimately allowed to do it, but it took a lot of back and forth, and it was only because that original class had been canceled. I know of other students that wanted to take 2 study halls and were flat out told that they couldn't. Remember, there is no written policy or rule as to how many a student can or cannot take. We asked. So, why was at least one of these students allowed to the very special exception to take 3 study halls that were signed off and approved by the administration? We asked, and I'll explain, but first I need to tell you about the third unfair practice we uncovered. Depending on which guidance counselor you might have been assigned to, you may be offered academic opportunities that you qualify for, or you might not. Students are assigned to one of 4 guidance counselors, and apparently there is not a consistent standard of counseling. A junior planning meeting takes place in February or March of junior year to discuss course selection for senior year and the students' plans for after high school. Parents are invited to this very important meeting. At their junior planning meeting, the other 2 students were made aware of the high school scholars partnership, a partnership with Wesleyan and some local community colleges where students with a history of being successful at rigorous high school classes can take a free college course. They can take 1 free course each semester, as well as the summer, their junior and senior year of high school. The entire program of classes is open to the students to take. Literally thousands of classes to choose from in any department. I was not made aware of this same opportunity. We only learned about it when we inquired as to how one student was even allowed the special exception for 3 study halls. We were advised the student had requested that many so that, during the Morgan school day, they could keep up with the pace and workload of a college course they had taken they were taking in the evening of that very important semester. Mind you, at this time we knew nothing of the high school scholars program. We just assumed that this one student elected to pay for a college course on their own. Well, this led us down a rabbit hole of new questions. Most importantly, did the school allow the student to use the grade from this outside class on their report card, and therefore towards GPA and rank? This is very important because college courses only last 1 semester, meaning if you bring the grade into Morgan, it will show on the report card as a final finished 1 semester long grade. And since it was a college course, it would be weighed as heavily as Morgan's own AP or ECE classes. Mind you, Morgan's AP and ECE classes are all year-long classes, and they really wouldn't be calculated. We did ask, and yes, they did allow the student to use the grade from the class on their Morgan report card. Do we have a written policy saying that the students can use the grade from an outside class towards GPA and class rank? No, we don't. So we looked at other schools in the area. They had formal written policies saying that you cannot use the grade from an outside class towards GPA and class rank. Madison, Guilford, Westbrook, Valley, and Old Lyme all say that you cannot use an outside class for class rank. We also learned that this student took a college course over the summer between junior and senior year. Since Morgan doesn't have a summer report card, the grade from the summer course got bumped to the next grading period. So this student would have had two heavily weighted, one semester long outside classes and a special exception to take 3 study halls during this very important semester. Then we learned that the other student also chose to take a college course for a semester. The course they selected was in the middle of the day, so they had to be approved for more than one study hall so they could leave Morgan before the end of the school day to drive to Wesleyan in time for class. It's no surprise as to how I was bumped to number 3. I was playing an entirely different set of rules for the tie-breaking semester. Again, at this point, we still believed both of these students had happened to elect to sign up and pay for college courses on their own. The only reason we learned about the high school scholars partnership that Morgan was a part of was because we started asking a lot of detailed questions about how both students knew. They would be allowed to use the grade for GPA/rank as it isn't written anywhere. Why would a high-achieving student elect to take an outside course for a semester senior year as a pass/fail elective that wouldn't count towards their GPA while they were sending out college applications? Somehow, they both knew that it was going to be allowed. How did both know that they could use multiple study halls along with these outside college courses? Extra study halls are frowned upon, and it was nowhere in writing. As we are asking guidance, Morgan administration, and the superintendents about these study halls and these college classes, out comes the April 5th blast, which is a newsletter to these students and families about what is going on in the high school that week. This is a blurb that was published. Remember, this is well over a year after the other 2 students learned about this same opportunity. We believe the fact that we were asking administration exactly how this opportunity was brought to a student's attention prompted them to start adding it to the blast. We started asking more questions, such as, how long had this partnership been in existence? Many years. As long as Carrie Hagnes has been principal. And 2, how many students have taken advantage of it in the last 5 years? 5, including the 2 from this year. My mother reads the blast every week and has for years. She has never seen this blurb before. It is now being advertised to the entire school, even though only a few people would be eligible and only 5 in the past 5 years have taken advantage of it. Excuse me. Right as we are asking a million questions about how it appears that only certain guidance counselors tell students, which is worth noting as well. We ask for copies of the blast from years past when we are told it was also likely advertised before. We've asked numerous times and have never been given proof. We asked the administration to explain how it would happen that some eligible students would be made aware of this opportunity by a guidance counselor, but I wasn't. They advised us a counselor may discuss a college course opportunity as part of the junior planning meeting as appropriate to the student's plan. Well, that makes sense. It clearly is not for every student. However, if the other 2 were told about it, I feel as though I should have been too. We were almost identical students in terms of GPA and have all been successful at taking rigorous college courses successfully in the past, such as AP and ECE classes. But what about the part where she said it would need to be appropriate for the student's plan? In the formal take-home worksheet notes from my junior planning meeting, it proves I specifically mentioned 2 things to my guidance counselor that should have prompted them to suggest this opportunity to me. The first being I had just toured Wesleyan. The second being that I was interested in taking forensics at Morgan, but since it is a regularly leveled class and I was aware back in February or March of my junior year that I was right at the top of my class as I had just been named a Morgan Scholar, which represents the top 5% of my class, I was concerned as to how forensics would affect my GPA, so I discussed with my counselor that maybe I should take an ECE or AP course at Morgan instead. It would have been great if my counselor, based on the type of student that they knew I was, the type of courses I had been successful at in the past, the fact that I had just mentioned Wesleyan, and that I had an interest in forensics class, but as a regularly leveled class, it would set me back, that my counselor had told me about this free opportunity to take a college course in forensics. There are some, we checked, but no, it was never mentioned. We never heard about it until it was in the blast on April 5th 2024. And because it was only in the blast on April 5th, because we were asking so many questions about how a student would know about this opportunity. This is what we believe. So, what are we asking to have happen? We want to recalculate the top 3 students' GPAs, creating a level playing field. How? Use academic class grades from Morgan's Semester 1 formal grades on the report card. Even out the special exception study halls given to the 2 of the 3 students. For every special authorization they were given, remove one of my elective grades, as it is just not fair. And do not count outside college grades, for numerous reasons. Remember, we have no written policy on this. Our neighboring towns do have formal written policies saying that you cannot use those grades. And interestingly enough, we have a similar formal written policy stating the exact opposite in a very similar situation. In Clinton, 7th and 8th graders may be offered the opportunity to take a Morgan Honors Level class while they are still in middle school. They can take Spanish Honors or Algebra Honors. These are the exact classes that are taught at Morgan, except that they are taking them in middle school. We have a formal written policy that you can use the credits once you are in high school on your transcript, but you may not use the grades towards GPA and class rank. This is the complete opposite of having no written policy but allowing it anyways. We reached out to a specialist on dual enrollment opportunities at the Connecticut State Department of Education. Dual enrollment is when a high school student takes a college course and gets credit at both the college and the high school. Her name is Renee Savoy. For the last few years, she has helped Connecticut's public high schools develop and expand their advanced course participation and the formal policies regarding them. She told us, "It is important to note that the majority of the Connecticut State Department of Education's efforts to expand dual credit opportunities have focused on concurrent enrollment, which are courses taken at the high school for credit, for example, AP and ECE credits, because those courses tend to be the most accessible to the majority of students. Not everybody can drive themselves or get a ride to Middletown several times a week to take a college course. Anybody that plays sports, needs to have a job, or must watch a sibling are at a disadvantage. It's not equitable. However, all students can attend an AP/ECE class since they're offered during regular school hours within the Morgan School. After recalculating, I may end up still being number 3. But at the very least, everybody will know 1 and 2 are a true valedictorian and salutatorian for the class of 2024, and not just a result of unfair circumstances. But if a fair and equitable calculation does change the ranking around, correct it. We've worked for 12 years for these honors. Also, please know that we have asked administration to recalculate already. We've been asking this for months. Interestingly, back in February, when we were only aware of the fact that they didn't use core academic class grades in their calculations, we asked them to recalculate to make it a true reflection of all their grades. They were 100% willing to do so. They added in the grades from the academic classes from the report cards. They were also very willing to share with us the results, that I was still number 3. Once we learned about the inequities of the extra study halls and the Wesleyan opportunity only offered 2 of them, we asked again for a recalculation. We were told, "I have consulted with our board attorney and have been advised not to discuss other students and their grades or rankings related to this situation." So, sounds like they did recalculate, saw the ranks that had changed, and then called their lawyers. And we had not asked how the recalculation affected the other 2 students. We only asked how it put me, just like the last time they recalculated. Sadly, on September 12th, the day that they called us down to the first time to tell us our end-of-year junior rank, the same administration and guidance counselors that had already approved outside college courses and extra study halls for the other 2 students were the same people telling us, "Good luck in this next semester coming up." In fact, one student had already handed in a grade from a summer course to them. On September 12th, there was likely no way that I could hold on to number 2, but they allowed me to think I could anyways. And on this day, They've already decided to tell students their rank at the end of junior year, and giving them one last semester to try to improve it creates too much competition, mental health issues, etc. They already decided this would be the last time they did it, and this is how they handled it. So, how can you help? If this sounds unfair to you as well, please speak up as soon as possible. Email those in charge, let them know that you are requesting a fair recalculation. I would love it, especially if students reached out, especially those from the class of 2024. But any students, parents, or tax-paying citizens of Clinton, please consider speaking up. We have attached a list of emails and some basic contact information. You can also attend the Board of Ed meeting this coming Monday, May 20th, at exactly 7 p.m. and tell them directly. Please also tell others, pass this video and information around, and ask questions. Please know that we have almost 4 months of emails and research. If you want any further information or proof, please reach out. Our contact information is on the screen now. We need to remind the Board of Ed who they work for and what their motto is. Once again, I just wanted to thank you all for watching this video, and I appreciate the time that you took out of your day to hear my story. Thank you.